Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Wes with Pikes Peak Trades. Really excited to give you another weekend stock market video update. If you want to see a big picture look at a lot of things comprehensively, go watch last weekend's video. I took you through an update that was quite overdue of a lot of things, really kind of the whole variety of things that I track and chart. Going to try to focus this one a little bit more, keep this one a little bit shorter. We'll show you some high time frame charts on the monthly, but want to show you that I think we're a little bit overcooked here in the short term. Want to give you some technicals and also some individual names that I think are going to set us up for a pullback here this coming week. As always, we keep things objectively focused and evidence-based, no bias, no emotion. We just want to let the charts and the technicals do the talking. So with that said, let's jump right in here. And I'm going to be focusing first on the SPX monthly. We can see right here how May's candle printed. We can see a bullish stack of the EMAs, and we can see down here a hooking up here of the monthly MACD, and this is set up in a really nice position here to run. I don't see anything that is bearish about this high time frame monthly chart. I want to show you now the QQQ monthly, and I want to show something exciting that is just developing here in the month of June, and it is in fact a monthly MACD bull cross. That does not happen, and that will not confirm by the end of June if we are in fact in a bear market. There is nothing bearish that is setting up about this chart. I want to take you back into the last time that we got this monthly MACD bull cross, and that happened back in the summer months of 2009. What I want to show you is right here on this EMA stack. The market was in a different position, and that's why I think that it is wise to project that the GFC that was actually part here of a secular bear market that ended there in March of 2009 across the board. This is not the same look. We do not have the same type of EMA stack here, and that is why I'm counting it differently from an Elliott wave perspective. I think the COVID lows did set in a cycle degree, but here I think it was a primary cyclical bear market low. And then if you followed me here, you know my projection is very optimistic with, I think, a lot of wonderful things to look forward to in the market for the remainder of this decade. And if you're still holding here stubbornly to a bearish bias on it, I think you're just, again, you're not on the correct side of how the evidence here is stacking up. Let's take a look at some weeklies, and we had really, really awesome finishes across the board on Friday. You can notice this weekly RSI is above 70. That, again, that is something that does not happen here in bear markets. We can see that the weekly MACD pointed strongly up at about a 30-degree angle, and we're approaching some pullback targets, and I'll start talking about that here in just a little bit. Okay, so we get in here to the QQQ, kind of an interesting back-to-back set of candles that closed above the weekly upper BB, and we're pretty overcooked here, a reading of almost 82 on the RSI, and I think the Qs and I think the NASDAQ are setting us up here for a pullback, and I'm going to show you a couple different degree levels when we drill down into some smaller time frames. I want to show you the corresponding look here on the NASDAQ, and I have been charting here. Well, I called that the lows were in December, and then in March I said, look, we're setting up here for a bullish higher low, started putting in the details of this count, and it has just played out beautifully. Go back and check my tweets on here. This is the IXIC TradingView NASDAQ composite ticker. Just nailed it. But I think we're ready here for a pullback. So I've got that degree 4 that you're going to see here. You'll see it also on the Qs. Now, some technicals that I think are setting up here for a pullback, and this is really interesting. So we got an SPX upper BB close, a VIX lower BB close, and an NYMO upper BB close. Now, the only recent time that corresponded to something like that was February 2nd of this year, when we got the S&P above the BB, the VIX below. But at that point, the NYMO, because we'd had such a strong rally coming off the December lows, was nowhere near its upper BB. I'm suggesting that we've got a setup of market technicals that I think are just too overcooked in the short term. If I take you back to where SPX was on that print, there's that February 2nd print, and that set in here this double opportunity for a double higher low off of that bear market. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen again, but I do want to offer at least that possibility here. If this market pattern rhymes again and repeats, we have the possibility that we could go all the way back here and test the 400 level here on SPY. Now that is a much more short-term bearish alternate, but I've got to fairly give that to you in case it does match what happened in early February of this year. Now, how that lines up with what we're going to get a rate decision from the Fed, if we get a surprising maybe 50 basis point hike, that could trigger that off. Could even the lack of a pause do that? Well, I don't know. I'm not here to speculate on what that decision is going to be. I'm just going to say that there are some technicals that are suggesting that we're probably here due for a pullback. Now, since we're looking at SPY, let me go ahead and jump in to one of the small time frame charts. I don't have that more bearish short-term pullback on the chart. What I do have is I have the suggestion that we're going to be looking at a variety of wave 4 lows. So that would simply take SPY back towards that gap up area of Friday morning. This one right here, where if you caught the gap up, that was great. We were long in a number of things at PPT, my public Discord group. And then right here, the settling of 425 was a re-entry signal that took you to that next gapping pivot area about 428. Now, if we break pretty decisively below the Friday afternoon lows, I think this is a short signal for you to take some short-term bearish trades. It's possible we get one more spike. We could get a gap up and crap look if this is an ending diagonal. So if this was a 1, 2, and then we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, we could poke up here into 429 before we start to retreat down. And in that case, I'm not going to chase it. I'm going to look then for an opportunity to sell in case that was simply a short-term bull trap coming off of Friday's enthusiasm. Okay, let me show you that corresponding short-term look here on the Qs. So on the Qs, interesting setup. So after the initial gap up on Friday, we just went sideways. And could that be here a wave 4 with an attempt Monday to pop up and fill the gapping area from about 356 to 361? It's certainly possible that we get that with the recent market strength. Now, I'm showing this as an alternate blue, but I do think eventually, whether we pop or whether we drop immediately, we're going to get this wave 4 pullback. And I've got it projected here anywhere. This is a little deeper projection. I'll show you what that might look like on some individual names. I think more probable that we go back in here to maybe the 344 to 348 area, somewhere in the mid 340s as a pullback before we resume a target upwards here into that minute 3. Okay, now let me go ahead and show you some of the individual names that I think are setting up for that before I take you through some pictures of some other indices and ETFs. So we get into a name like Apple. Okay, so here with Apple, we've got a really interesting doji questionable indecision candle above the upper BB. I've got 2 pullback targets. So here we have that wave 4. It's a sub-minute that's going to be matching that QQQ target right in here just to the mid-170s. Now, if we need a bigger pullback, and this could be the one that's going to correspond to that deeper 4 fib on the Qs, and possibly even that one on SPY that I showed could even challenge 400. We've got a minor 4 potential topping area. Let me show you what that would look like on the short term. Only that first fib is what you're going to see there. Oops, I didn't want that to move. Okay, so a retreat back right into here, probably close that gapping area from the beginning part of this week on Tuesday before we make another run up. Again, the short-term bearish alt is that 3 is in place here and that 4 is moving down. Okay, let me show you that look across the board here in big tech, where I know we've just got a lot of interest. And I want to jump in here to Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft, kind of another indecision candle on the weekly, not out of the upper BB, unlike the QQQ weekly. And I've got here a couple possibilities that I want to show you on the daily. So on the daily, so a degree 4 matching what I just showed you in Apple would take Microsoft back towards the 8-day EMA, right around, let's say, maybe the mid 320s. Possible that it could get a lower. Here's that more bearish fib that might correspond to that bigger pullback on SPY that could take it back down here, let's say all the way down into the low 300s. But that, again, that is an alternate look for me. Let me show you that here on the Microsoft short-term view. There's the one that we want. Okay, now I've got fibbed in blue. I've got that fibbed out here, a more aggressive bear count. I think what is going to be a little more likely is that this turns into something just more like an ABC down, and that's going to end this wave 4 here in the early to middle part of that week. And there's that low 320s projection here on Microsoft. How would we know that we're getting something more bearish? Well, we're going to have to see more clearly a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. So if we get 5 waves down into this fib zone without a clear 3 look, then a weak bounce, and that's going to have to be choppy, overlapping. That's when I think we're going to be saying, yeah, we're probably going to need to be on the lookout for something more bearish. And maybe that finishes all of next week. Maybe that even runs into the middle of June. Because we know in recent years, the June swoon has actually been a real thing. It hasn't been so much the sell in May and go away. It's been more of that June swoon. I've got to leave that in fairness on the charts in case that is what we actually see. Okay, we want to take a look at some other names here, because we know that the Qs and the NASDAQ have led. So if we're going to pull back, these are going to have to be pulling back. And we look at Tesla. Okay, so we've got Tesla here, a couple different possible pullbacks. This isn't a strong bearish shooting star, but I'm going to suggest that we're probably going to see Tesla pull back to at least here this 200-day SMA, and then show you that on the short-term charts where I think that could line up here. Is we're going to be looking here, right in here, right around 200. So I think losing that 215, 216 pivot was kind of key. We saw that develop into the end of the day. There's that shorter term, shallower fib. There is also, again, this would match with that Microsoft and Apple deeper fib, that off of the April low that we're actually setting a 1-2. And that would kind of fit more in line with more of that classic TA cup and handle pattern. Okay, so we're on guard, and I'm on guard, and my group is on guard for something more short-term bearish. If you've been following me, you've been paying attention to me, that has not been my stance at all over recent weeks, but I'm definitely on guard for that now, and so we're going to see how that sets up. Okay, a couple more short-term charts. Amazon. I've just got here a wave 4 that would pull Amazon back here into the low 120s. Nothing absurdly bearish that you're seeing out there, which I think are just wrong counts. Just something to pull it back, possibly back into the lows of this wave 4 that matched the week. And the same for Goog, possibly an ABC that takes it down. Now, with that said, and out of fairness here and respect to the strength of what we've seen, if we've just seen a kind of here a triangle look, it's possible that we get that surprising run. Goog, I think, is set up for that. If we do, in fact, set that 4 and the Qs move up in here. So my recommendation would be that if you are holding short here over the weekend, if Qs do break the Friday high and they show an establishment of some basing right around 356, 357, like SPY did on Friday at 428, you might have to exit and hold your nose and buy, because maybe we've got one more push before we actually get these degree 4 pullbacks like what I'm saying. But I think Monday morning into the close Monday is going to give us the big clue. And I think after that, we'll probably likely know. Okay, so that takes us through big tech. But let's make sure that we look at some other things. If you're only interested in big tech, you can turn away now. But I should probably include NVIDIA here on big tech, that I think this NVIDIA look, so an A, B into a C down. That's my primary look here on NVIDIA. Certainly kind of short-term overcooked. While here, I've got you in Netflix, and I shared this out for you guys on Twitter, an ABC down look. And I think there's just a lot of other names that are corresponding to that. Let me go through a couple others that I think would be worth looking at for here. And I think I want to get into this tab. There we go. What about Adobe? So Adobe did it set here, that minor 3. Are we ready for a minor 4? How about AMD? Does AMD need here a little bit of a deeper look here? Let me get this back. Sorry about that. Scroll that over. Is minor 4 done, or is it going to go a little bit lower? That's kind of the question here for a name like AMD, whether or not this minor 4 is actually done, or does it need to tick down here? And I can set that out here for you. Does it need to move down a little bit lower, kind of into this 4 area? So still a lot to be decided. I certainly think interesting things for us to consider. Okay, on this tab, I want to talk about XLY, because XLY here, it did just bull cross on golden cross here on the 50 and 200. But sometimes what we see is a retreat back in to test that area. And that would kind of correspond here to Amazon and Tesla taking a little bit of a short-term rest. Now, XLY, one of the heavier weighted sectors, it's not as weighted as XLK, the communication sector in the S&P, but this is really going to have to get up and move if the S&P is going to reach my bull market primary 3 targets for the decade. The other key one that we've got to talk about here is XLF. Okay, so we look at here the XLF picture improving, but financials are going to have to substantially improve. And really the breakout area is about 34 here on XLF. And if we do that, I think we're going to see a continuation of money rotation like we saw on Friday when industrials, financials, and small caps were outpacing. And here we've got it. It has definitely the kind of bull market setup that you want to see. Now, where are we? I think we're in the beginning stages of a 3 of 3 of 3 move. But again, market wide, do we need to see a little bit of retreat here? And in XLF, my suggestion would be that we need to pull back and just rest a little bit back to maybe the low to mid 32s. Maybe this diagonal holds, and that would certainly pull the rest of the market back, because financials in the S&P, they're about 13% of the weighting. So that's one of the things that has dragged the S&P back. Not drag, that's not the right word. It's kept it as opposed to QQQ, the more heavily weighted in the XLK communications sector. And I think that could give us part of the retreat that I'm expecting here over the week, maybe the next. Now, while we're looking at it, we got to look at industrials, and what a great finish for DIA here on Friday. Now back strongly over with that close at 338, all of those key weekly MAs. And you're going to see my expectation here for a 1-2, that we're just in the early stages of finishing another 1-2. And I think DIA, like the Qs, I think it just needs a wave 4 pullback. Okay, so I was heavily long DIA this week, made some great trades. I was long DIA on Friday into the gap up, and I thought that we were going to set right in this area. I thought we were going to set that wave 4 pullback. and look at what happened. It just plowed right through. I unfortunately sold a little early, but you know what? When you're looking at, like, say 200% option profits versus 300, are you really going to cry about that? You're not going to cry about that. You're actually laughing your way to the bank, which is what we did in PPT this week. That now, though, I think the easy money is made, and I think that we're looking at that resting pullback. Is it possible we see a spike to fill this gap area? It's possible before that pullback. But again, my primary look is that we're looking for some weakness this week. Okay, got to show you small caps. So we get in here to IWM and just look at that weekly candle. Amazing. Right up above the 50, bumped its head against that 200-week SMA. That's the conquering level to get this moving in that minor 3, same count like I showed you on XLF. But again, I think just a little bit overcooked here. I think we pull back again. So filled this gap area way out of the upper BB, and I would anticipate that is not going to sustain, that we're going to see it pull back towards that BB, maybe even close back within. And so that fib level here on IWM is going to take you right back in to the mid 178s. And, again, we're just going to have to wait and see. Now, I wouldn't get aggressive shorting this until 180 breaks below, fails that move, kind of sets in that double top, maybe a small time frame head and shoulders top, and then I think you can get a little bit more aggressive here into the shorts. Okay, now if there is one that I'm not so sure about, and it always seems like there is one, it's ARKK. And I'm just not quite sure how ARKK yet is going to fit in to this bullish count that I've got. But we've got, like Apple, a questionable daily candle above the upper BB. And so with ARKK, I think my suggestion is more of a nest, a 1-2, 1-2 that would just pull some growth stocks back here towards the 8 EMA on ARKK into the low 40s. Okay, so a couple other individual names that we could look at. I played Square and Roku really well. I still have each of them in a really nice bull count, but do we immediately run up here on Square to tag the 200-day SMA? I'm going to say we probably don't. So I decided to exit my profitable calls here. Square was up 100%. Roku was up nicely. That maybe internally within the move, it just needs to pull back and just rest in here. Same, I think, with Roku. I was kind of charting here a short-term possible ending diagonal. I might need to upgrade this count into a 1-2, 1-2 like I suggested. Another one I really want to be closely following here is going to be Shop. And within this count, do we need Shop to pull back within this bull flag to kind of move back through to test the weekly low? And that would kind of be my look. I'd be really surprised market wide if something like Shop immediately busts this bull flag and just cruises on out. Okay, so that gives you kind of a look at what I'm seeing here. If you have no interest in crypto or metals and miners, this is where you can turn away. But I do want to make sure we talk about crypto, as I know a lot of you are very interested in. So we're looking at a potential bull flag on Bitcoin. But my question is, are we going to break it immediately or do we need to retreat? And I show you that on the small time frames. And if I actually had to place a bet here short term, I think this triple zigzag down into one more move lower, I think is actually where I'm giving more weighting. And that's going to correspond nicely to what I'm showing you there in the markets market wide. Now, you want to trade this actively here on Bitcoin. Look at this potential ending diagonal to finish the C leg of wave B. You lose here 27,000, and I think you've got the chance for an active short that could net you maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 in net here on a short-term trade. What would that look like on something like ETH? Well, ETH, I still am thinking that the low from May 12 gets challenged. I'm not real enthusiastic about this as an impulse wave. Listen, if I'm wrong, then we're getting some surprising resolution upward in the market. With something like ADA, maybe it needs another pullback retreat attempt towards that 200-day SMA. On ADA, the breakout level is this key pivot at about 42 cents here. And you do that, and you've got this inverse head and shoulder look that it could bust. But I think in the short term, I think we see a rest. Something like XRP, where would it pull back? Maybe just a pullback again to retest that 50-cent level. Nothing absurdly or over-the-top bearish, but just some resting moves that I think are setting up. Okay, want to finish here with GDX because GDX was such a great trade from October of last year, then retreated through the market weakness in February, and then just matched the market in an incredible run up here into these highs in early May. And then is this a 1-2-1-2? Where are we at in that? It is possible you've got a reloading zone here. So my dip buy antenna are certainly fully tuned in here to GDX. And if we see here movement up that's going to conquer, say, 32, I think maybe this 1-2 of a smaller degree is done. Could it work a little bit lower down? It certainly could. GDX, in my experience, and miners overall, they are prone to really deep wave 2 fibs. And so I think it's possible that we could see more weakness here in the miners. That kind of corresponds to my general market thesis. But I just want to have this on your radar as playing this, I think was something like NUGT or even JNUG, some of those leveraged senior or junior mining funds. That is an awesome way to swing a larger position within this wave count. So I'm really interested to see what transpires on this week. And of course, as I am with everything, is what exactly plays out. So leave you here with that small time frame SPY chart that my primary look is at some point this week. Does it happen immediately Monday? I don't know. But if we do show weakness Monday and we break below here the Friday afternoon consolidation, I think your primary trade is going to be to the short side. So as always, just hope you like and subscribe and enjoy here what I'm doing for you. I think, again, we're in just an exciting market period. If Friday is an indication of the kind of money rotation that we're going to see XLF, we're going to see DIA, we're going to see IWM just move and boom. And I think, again, a lot of exciting things to look forward to. So I'm here to take you through it. So join the PPP Discord. It is free during these summer months. A lot of exciting things happening there. Come join a really positive, encouraging trading community where I give chart updates continuously throughout the day and throughout the week. So thanks again for all that you do to support me at Pikes Peak Trades. Really excited to continue to carry this forward. Wish you a wonderful weekend and exciting trading week here coming up in the first full trading week of June.